Tuggeranong Arts Centre acknowledges the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people who are the traditional custodians of the Canberra area and pays respects to elders past and present. Suzanne Edgar is a poet and writer who moved to Canberra with her husband Peter, also a writer and historian, over 50 years ago. She's published collections of short stories and poetry, contributed 53 articles to the Australian Dictionary of Biography, and has been a film and book critic. Her poems twice won the C.J. Dennis Memorial Poetry Competition. Sue was a member of Seven Writers, an ACT group who vividly portrayed life beneath the surface of the city in their book Canberra Tales. This book, long out of print, is currently being republished in digital form.
Well, we shared a house with some other students in Adelaide, and they came to visit us soon after we moved in here. It was the middle of winter and it had been raining for weeks. And one of them came back recently and she said, "Oh, this is a glade." And she said, when we came in 1960, whatever it was, she said, it was just a sea of mud. The bricks were a kind of colour of mud. There was mud all around, no lawns or gates or anything. It looked repulsive. But my father came over and he put in a lawn, and my mother came over and gave us various shrubs to plant, and we did a lot of gardening in the beginning to set it up, but retain the bush atmosphere.
No, I will
There's this big semicircle of ancient Blakely's red gums, which are over 200 years old, and they were left on the block. This government house was given to us, well, first of all to rent. They were left on the block. Most people cut trees down everywhere, but we never did. So you'll see that lovely circle of old gums out there now still. Actually, I've got a poem about the knocking down of the little houses called The Incursion. Little cottages, little homely cottages are just going down under the bulldozers, and ugly two-storey monsters are replacing them, and I think it's a very sad thing. The Incursion. All day they're coming down, the little cottage houses with gardens, trees and swings, grass where children grew. They are being brought down. The dozers conspire to crush and drone like lumbering tanks in a fearful theatre of war. All day, crushing to shards and smithereens the plans and the games and the songs which fitted snug in cottage homes on safer streets. Here in summer at dusk, the children flew out on scooters or bikes, speeding in undies and dressing gowns that fluttered like wings as they raced. Now they are all coming down, the cottage houses. What remains are scabs, trampled, ugly, brown, in ruined streets with ravaged gaps where thistles grow and feral agents prowl. My first job was book reviewing, which is not really a job, and then somebody put a notice in my letterbox. Would you like your children to succeed in their exams? Well, send them to the Graduate Coaching Academy. Well, I didn't have any children at that stage. I was pregnant, but I did get a job as tutoring English with the Graduate Coaching Academy. And then the person who owned that did a flip to Singapore to start another business. So I kept on tutoring the pupils I'd had, and also doing the book reviewing for the Canberra Times and originally for the Australian newspapers and for Quadrant magazine. And then I finally secured a job as a research assistant on the Australian Dictionary of Biography. So I was always running about 3 different activities or jobs. You know, there was the research assistant job on the ADB, there was a bit of tutoring for the continuing education, and there was my own writing. I'm a great believer in form in poetry.
Yeah.
The poetry that you see in the paper week after week after week is formless these days.
Yeah.
And I don't really like it very much. I like musicality in poetry. Well, once I started writing poetry, I made a great study of it. So if I were reading a book about Keats or Thomas Hardy, and there was a reference to a poem, there's a little rule I have. And I put an arrow in the margin. I'm not allowed to read on until I look up that poem. So all those 4 or 5 poets you can see standing up in the background over there. Robert Frost was a great influence,
Yeah.
and Philip Larkin. And both of those people were formalists, if you like, and they have influenced me. I don't really care for long-winded free verse. Yeah, well, there's a very rude poem in here that brings down the house. Breasts. Late at night, my breasts push on the dividing wall, whisper through cracks in the lace. When I let them out of their cage, they moan with pleasure, swing free and tumble down the steps of my ribs to laugh and sigh at the soft reviving kiss of air. While I sleep, these milk-white tipsy creatures sidle and sway, eavesdrop, round-eyed, on dreams and night games. At first light they wait, subdued for the blindfold, the cage, separation, and a stretch of solitary confinement.
Valley Inhabitants is produced by Woden Arts Program for Tuggeranong Community Arts Association. Video and photography by Martin Ullman, musical compositions by Harvey Welsh, and audio conducted by Jen Sederhelm.